A few nights ago, Riley, Red, myself were riding around in Red Dead Online, and the conversation came up about certain criticisms of Red Dead Online. And the knee jerk reaction when it comes to anyone that critiques Red Dead Online, especially when you happen to be a fan of the game, is kind of knee jerkish. But at the same time, I think it's important to hold back on such a reaction in order to listen to somebody's valid arguments, because I believe, unlike other games out there, a lot of Red Dead Online fans are mature, and we see issues and flaws in a game that we all happen to enjoy. And I decided to compile a list, probably not everything, but a list of, in my opinion, mistakes that have been made in Red Dead Online by Rockstar. Now, it's possible that maybe in a future update these mistakes could be rectified and improved upon, or they could be made worse, but only time will tell. By the way, if you happen to have any thoughts on some of the mistakes that Rockstar has made regarding Red Dead Online, some things you think that they should change or tweak or fix or improve or do away with in Red Dead Online, feel free and leave that below in the comment section. And this is something that a lot of people have been talking about for a while now during countless live streams that I've done. Someone will always come into the live chat, whether it's a regular viewer or a new viewer or just somebody that's just randomly moseyed by with a criticism. And most of the time, I think that it's constructive, and I try to reply in a constructive manner. Because like I said, I don't look at Red Dead Online with rose-colored glasses. It's a beautiful game, but it definitely has its share of flaws and issues over the past nearly 2 years since the beta came out. And unfortunately, the problems continue to remain and persist. So, like I said, I probably not going to cover every single mistake that Rockstar has made by Red Dead Online, but I got quite a few things on this list that I wrote up. First off, let's talk about ability cards. I feel like ability cards were a mistake for Red Dead Online because, for one thing, it allows griefers to better grief other players. Now, I realize that there are loadouts that players can put together with the ability cards to try to counter griefing, but at the same time, I really feel like ability cards weren't necessary in a game like Red Dead Online. Deadeye also, even though it serves a purpose in Red Dead Redemption 2, as well as Red Dead Redemption, Red Dead Revolver, and yes, it was also in Red Dead Redemption multiplayer, I rarely use Deadeye in Red Dead Online, and I think that the game would be considerably better if Deadeye was removed. Now, once again, these are my views, my opinions. What I think Rockstar made were mistakes to Red Dead Online, and I'm sure some of you are going to disagree with some of my opinions here, and if you do, feel free and call me all sorts of awful names and cancel me. Actually, I would prefer if you were just civil about it so that we could actually have a conversation, an actual bona fide conversation. But yeah, I think that ability cards, Deadeye, should have never been part of Red Dead Online, both of which can be exploited, used, and abused by griefers on other players. And some people are like, well, GB, if we remove Deadeye, how am I supposed to play the game? I've been playing it with mostly out Deadeye for 2 years now. Well, nearly 2 years now. Even whenever I'm playing against like revenue agents or against other missions or enemy NPCs, most of the time, even other players in PvP modes, I don't use Deadeye. Every now and then I may accidentally push up Deadeye, but that's just because I accidentally mashed on the button, right? But for the most part, I hardly ever use Deadeye. And like I said, I feel like Deadeye and ability cards should not even be in Red Dead Online, along with the explosive incendiary rounds. Now, Rockstar claims they want to go for realism in Red Dead Online, which is why we currently have no Horses of the Apocalypse, or Unicorn, or Pegasus, etc., or like a steampunk route. However, I have to counter what Rockstar claims of realism when it comes to the incendiary explosive rounds that a lot of players enjoy using, specifically the griefers. I don't think that the average cowboy, cowgirl, lawman, outlaw riding around in the Wild West was using explosive rounds in their revolvers or their repeaters, shotguns, rifles, Rockstar. And I don't think that the average Native American using a bow and arrow were using Rambo-style explosive arrows. So once again, realism goes into the outhouse when it comes to explosive incendiary rounds. And yeah, I think that those rounds should be removed from Red Dead Online. At the end of the day, the only time I ever really use those specific types of rounds is to counter griefers that are attacking me and posse members with explosive incendiary rounds. So I think that those rounds added to Red Dead Online, once again, mistake made by Rockstar. I realized there was the explosive rifle in Red Dead Redemption, but that thing only shot one round of explosive ammo at a time. I believe that explosive rifle was expensive. I believe the rounds were expensive as well. So at least there was a very, very slow fire rate when it came to the explosive rifle. That cannot be said about repeaters or revolvers or the semi-auto pistols like the Mauser. Yeah, those two semi-auto pistols with explosive ammo and the semi-auto shotgun with incendiary or explosive slugs, whatever it happens to have. Yeah, very, very OP, and weapons of choice, tools that griefers love to use on other players. So yeah, I think that a lot of that stuff I just mentioned, ability cards, Deadeye, explosive incendiary rounds, should not be in Red Dead Online. The other mistake Rockstar has made that they continue to not do anything about because they're so obsessed with having players lumped into the same lobby together is forcing everybody to be into the same lobby. Now, I have cited my issues regarding that numerous occasions. For one thing, when you have more than 15 players, like 20 plus players in a lobby, it tends to cause other issues in Red Dead Online. Dynamics don't pop up, missions don't happen, camps don't pitch properly, etc. So it seems like with the peer-to-peer system that Rockstar chooses to use in GTA Online as well as Red Dead Online, that also causes problems when it comes to different lobby types. And it's sad that, as I've mentioned before, in GTA Online as well as Red Dead Redemption multiplayer, there were different lobby types, but unfortunately, when it comes to Red Dead Online, Rockstar's continue to try and stay the course on keeping everybody in the same public lobby, when a lot of players just want to be left alone and just play with their friends, their posse members. At the very least, there should be different options, and I could say you could go a different direction and have like an invite lobby, friend lobby, posse lobby, regular public lobby where you would have to do like big trader cells or moonshine cells, similar to the way it works in GTA Online. And maybe they'd have an additional lobby for the PvP players where all these things that I mentioned would be disabled, but players could go into the hardcore lobby in order to PvP and free roam against other PvPers. That way, almost everybody wins when it comes to different lobby types. Another mistake Rockstar has made is revolved around the horses. Now, I have made a few videos regarding a lot of these issues I'm bringing up, including horses. One big factor is our inability to sell horses, and that's something that has ticked off a lot of players in the community because you spend money, or in some cases gold, on a variety of horses in your stable. We currently are limited when it comes to stable stalls, slots, and whenever you want a new horse, but you have to discard one of the other horses, part of you doesn't want to part with that money or gold that you spent on that horse, especially the time that you spent bonding and getting that horse up to bonding level 4. And at the very least, you would like to be able to get some of your money, some of your gold back, or at the very least like a discount benefit coupon, 30%, 40% towards your next horse purchase, at the very least would be appreciated. It would be better than nothing. So discarding horses is definitely a mistake in my opinion when it comes to the decision Rockstar's made for Red Dead Online. And I've also gone over, I guess, the stable system itself. The fact with the roll horses, I don't think I'll touch too much on this. I don't like the fact that usually 4 out of 6 of the roll horses are avoided because they don't have the top stats or top cores. And I think that Rockstar should have retweaked that, not just for the roll horses, but maybe other horses as well, where you had the ability to upgrade the stats, upgrade the cores. If you had a coat for a specific horse or roll horse that you liked, but you didn't like the stats or cores, you wanted it to be up to the same level as like the top tier horse of that breed, then you would have the ability to upgrade it with, I guess, money or gold. And just like with the roll horses, I feel like that was a terrible decision by Rockstar, that they should have made it to where the coats were optional, similar to paint jobs for the cars at Los Santos Customs in GTA Online. Even though I'm not expecting them to have like a ton of coat varieties for the horses, I get that. But at the very least, instead of basically only having 2 options for each roll horse, you would have 6 coat options for each horse, because some of the mid and lower tier horses look really good, but it's those stats and cores that turn people away from purchasing that specific horse. Now, that doesn't stop everybody. Some people are perfectly content with a low tier or mid tier horse. They just put on a really good saddle, like the Nacogdoches saddle, along with the herded stirrups to try and make the difference. But overall, the mechanic system, the customization for horses in Red Dead Online, along with the inability to sell horses, mistakes that were made by Rockstar. As we move on to the PvP menu, and Rockstar did this better with GTA Online, which is 7+ years old at this point. The setup there is much better because you can go in to either like a race, a capture, a death match, an LTS, an adversary mode, and pick which one you want. You can host it. Plus, you would have some customization options, how many rounds you want to do. Like, for example, with the racing in GTA Online, you could decide what type of race, how many laps you want the race to be. Do you want it to be GTA style where people can fight and kill each other? Do you want it to be a standard race where people are just racing? Or do you want it to be where players are not going to be able to run into each other because of the passive mode? I believe it's called passive mode. I keep screwing that one up. But unfortunately, when it comes to the PvP menu in Red Dead Online, there's only a limited number of PvP modes that pop up in the main menu. And like the other night, we were looking for the hardcore modes. Riley Red and me, because Red and I wanted Riley to try out the hardcore mode. But unfortunately, we looked through the main menu and we could not see one single hardcore mode pop up in Red Dead Online. And I've applauded Rockstar for the hardcore modes over the past few months, which do away with a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about, like the ability cards, Deadeye, explosive incendiary rounds, forcing players to actually play against each other with skills and whatnot. But unfortunately, we could not find a hardcore mode, and there's no way to go into a menu similar to GTA Online and simply go down to hardcore mode and play the hardcore modes, because that might be something that players rather do, is just focus on the hardcore modes, or go into horse racing and disable weapons so that players could just actually horse race without some asshole behind them blasting them away with a double barrel shotgun. Yes, I feel like the PvP modes, the menu for that should have been done a lot better, and there should have been ways for the PvP modes for players to disable things, like disable ability cards, disable Deadeye, disable certain rounds. That would be cool if there was some customization there where you could host it and you could do showdown, you could do elimination series with the ability to, tweak it a little bit or pick out which map you would like to do, whether it's over at Sisika or out at Fort Mercer or elsewhere. Unfortunately, we don't have those choices in Red Dead Online when it comes to the PvP modes or the PvP menu. The next mistake that Rockstar made is revolved around the roles. Now, this might be controversial to some of you. What have I brought up has not been controversial, right? Because not everybody's going to agree with me, but that's perfectly fine. We're all entitled to our opinions. I feel like that, as I've stated before, mistakes can be improved upon, can be fixed going forward down the road. And it's quite possible that future roles will improve the overall experience of roles going forward in Red Dead Online. But as of right now, I am not too thrilled about the state of the roles. Tez on Twitter mentioned an interview I think a German magazine did allegedly with somebody at Rockstar. It was also discussed by a few of you in our awesome Discord community, where we have a title update coming soon to Red Dead Online that has actually kind of sort of been confirmed in the previous Newswire last Tuesday. And so there is a title update coming to Red Dead Online. How soon? We're speculating maybe somewhere in November, mid-November, late November at the earliest. Perhaps around the end of the Halloween Pass, Maybe once that's done, maybe on the 17th, the soonest, we might get the next title update. But apparently there's going to be a new role, which might be fun and action-packed and exciting, and some other stuff as well. But that is yet to be officially confirmed, so all that right now is just rumor mill and speculation. Now, Rockstar is attempting with the roles to create RPG in Red Dead Online. But most players just want something else besides roaming around being a collector or being a naturalist, sedating animals, and getting sprayed by Harriet. There are some roles I think that they did good with, but at the same time, whenever I think of a Wild West adventure, I'm thinking about being like a lawman or an outlaw or a prospector or a rancher, cowboy, cowgirl, or some sort of tycoon, robber baron, captain of industry type. Somewhere in between, our bandit. I'm not really thinking about running around, like I said, sedating animals or collecting, even though collecting is a good way to make money in the game. And admittedly, as somebody who enjoys looting in games, it does appeal to me personally. But the problem is, it doesn't appeal to everybody. And the theme sometimes feels like it's kind of lost when it comes to certain roles. Now, I feel like Rockstar did it right with the Frontier Pursuits update because they added 3 different roles on the same day. They added the trader role for selling. They added the bounty hunter role, which is probably the more action-packed role as of right now in Red Dead Online, and the collector role. And having 3 roles put out at the same time gives you a lot of options, a lot of things to focus on, whether you want to do all 3 roles or 2 roles or just focus on one role at a time. And even if, we'll say, one of the 3 roles don't appeal to you, at least you have the other 2 you can do. The problem that Rockstar made after that was with the Moonshiner update and then the Naturalist update, because each one of those updates only had a single role. Now, for players that enjoyed being a Moonshiner, it was great. And for players that like being a Naturalist, that's awesome. But what about everybody else that didn't really care for the idea of being a Moonshiner or being a Naturalist? See, it doesn't appeal to everybody. And I feel like that's a mistake that Rockstar made by only putting out one role in one update, like with the Moonshiner update nearly a year ago and the Naturalist update a few months back. Because, like I've mentioned, not everybody wants to be a Naturalist. Not everybody wants to be a Moonshiner. And I feel like that the roles are unnecessary, to be honest, because, like, case in point, the legendary animals. They could have simply just added the legendary animals to free roam, even if they were peppering them in over the course of several weeks or months like they did. We didn't need to have to go get sprayed by Harriet or whatnot or in order to be a legendary animal hunter. They could have simply just put the legendary animals in the game. They could have put Gus in the game as a new trader to go to, and we could have simply just did what we've been doing and had the animal sighting missions through Gus. Harriet, in my opinion, has always been unnecessary when it comes to the Naturalist role. People like Harriet, which is fine. I personally don't, for reasons, but at the same time, it's just one example of why I feel like the role of the Naturalist role was not necessary. Legendary animals are great, even if they are somewhat redundant, but at the same time, I don't think that it needed to be latched on to a role. And the same can be said for the trader role, the moonshine role. It could have simply just been like, hey, you just do this thing with Crips if you want. You can, buy some trader stuff and not even worry about being a trader and not have things locked behind tokens or paywalls like gold bars. Yeah, so, if you wanted to do a moonshine roll thing, you could have just done that without the roll itself. My point is, I don't really see the point of the rolls. I think that they could still add content to the game without said rolls. I don't know if that's making any sense. Maybe it's not. I hope that if Rockstar continues with the rolls, they claim that they are going to, if you go by this German interview. By the way, I don't speak German, so what I read was roughly translated to the best of somebody's abilities, I think. They are not going to abandon the rolls. I guess that's a good thing. I hope that they can once again improve upon these rolls and make them better going forward and add more interesting, action-packed Western, Wild West-themed rolls As I've mentioned, I made ideas videos for some of these already, like the lawman roll. I made a video for that. Or like an outlaw, they could do like a lawman outlaw, kind of like two sides of the same coin because they like this honor-dishonor system. And prospector roll would be good because, I mean, there's plenty of rocks and mines around the place. And you could go mining like in Minecraft or Skyrim, mining for silver, gold, other ores of value. I don't know. A rancher roll would be cool. Some people like that idea, being a cowboy, being a cowgirl. Some people want a fishing role, an angler role. Okay, I mean, I feel like that might be a role that would be best suited, tacked up with another role or two, similar to what they did with Frontier Pursuits. But as a standalone role, I think that would be a terrible mistake because not everybody likes fishing in Red Dead Online, and not everyone is interested in an angler role. So overall, I feel like at the moment, there's been some hits and some misses when it comes to the roles. Not exactly a grand slam by Rockstar, but if they continue to make content for Red Dead Online, they continue to add new roles and improve upon the roles, maybe, just maybe, they will make them better going down the road. At least I hope that's the case. I also hope that they add properties, and I also hope that they add heists, as some people have been wanting for quite a while now. They'll definitely add more replayability and things to work towards, like properties, homes, mansions, etc., and maybe other wagons, maybe boats, other things, because that's what you kind of need in this game: replayability, fun factor, and goals, things to spend your hard-earned money and gold on. And at the moment, it really doesn't feel like there's much in that regard, but that could change in the next few weeks with a fall title update. The next mistake that we'll talk about is the persistent posse system. I am not a fan of the persistent posse system. I think it sucks. What they should have done is they should have simply copy-pasted over the MC system from GTA Online. And the big issue here is the backlog of members or posse members is unnecessary. I feel like that once you stand down the posse, then no one's part of the posse anymore. And once you restart the posse, then you can invite up to 4 or 7 people into your posse. Plus, it would be nice if we had the ability to expand the persistent posse a little bit more. Not to a ridiculous number, but maybe we had an ability to add like 8 members, because in Red Dead Redemption multiplayer, you could have up to 8 members in your posse, whereas in Red Dead Online, the persistent posse has a 7-member max to it. So maybe up to 10-member posse, that would be cool. I know you got to cap it off somewhere, Rockstar, but at the same time, I just don't like that backlog because it just makes things annoying when you're trying to invite somebody to your posse and then you have to go like, okay, why are they not accepting my invite? What's going on here? Is it because A, they're in more than 5, they're in 5 posses, which is the max you can be in? That's problematic. Or B, because your backlog of posse members is also maxed out. So you have to go into the posse, you have to go into edit, you have to kick people from your posse, which can be annoying. And I hope that nobody takes that personally. But unfortunately, people have to get kicked out, and then eventually you have to re-add them again, and then you have to leave posses, and then you have to rejoin posses. It's just pointless. The only posse you should be in permanently is your own posse. And when you start your posse, similar to the MC system or the CEO system in GTA Online, that's when you open the door, fresh and new, for new posse members to come in. Even if it's people that have been playing with you for quite a while now, I've just always had issue with the way Rockstar set up the persistent posse system. Next is the camp. Now, I have noticed recently that the camp pitch issue has once again returned. It's not as bad as it was previously, but it seems to be coming back at the recording of this video. But the other issue I want to talk about regarding the camp is the fact that I would have preferred it if Rockstar would have done a better job with camp locations, giving you the ability to actually select specific spots in each state to put your camp. Because sometimes you'll be up in, for example, Big Valley, in the northern part of Big Valley, right? And you'll ask Crips to bring the camp to Big Valley, but Crips will pitch it down in the southern part of Big Valley, south of Strawberry, and you're nowhere near Strawberry, and you're like, what the hell, Crips? And you look around, and you don't see any other camps nearby, And you're wondering, well, why did Cripps put the camp right there? So it would have been better, in my opinion, a mistake that Rockstar made that they could go back and improve upon, just like of all these I'm bringing up, is go into the system, whatever it comes to the camp location, the ability to select spots and open the map. And if there's a spot available, then you can select it, whether it's on the Lanahatchee, over there in the Bayou, or down in New Austin by the San Luis, or elsewhere. It would be really cool if we just had that extra ability in the game to look at all the different location spots, potential camp locations, and select which one we want specifically. Once again, as long as there's a vacancy there, an availability, and no one else is, pitched at Horseshoe Overlook, then we should be able to put our camp there. If someone else has, well, that's first come, first serve. You just have to look for another option when it comes to camp locations in Red Dead Online. So that's a mistake that could eventually be improved upon, fixed, remedied by Rockstar down the road. Whether or not Rockstar goes back to fix any of these mistakes remains to be seen. The next mistake is one that probably is far-fetched, that will never happen, is the time period. And just like with a lot of these, it may seem like I'm a broken record, a parrot, repeating myself from previous videos and live streams, but I have always taken issue with the time period in Red Dead Online. And once again, a lot of you may disagree with me. You may like the fact that Red Dead Online exists in 1898, a year prior to the events of Red Dead Redemption 2's main story. I'm of the belief that for the online mode of Red Dead, it would suit the game better if the time period was set to 1908, a year after the epilogue of Red Dead Redemption 2. So I'm going to try and not spoil anything from Red Dead Redemption 2, but at the very least, there are two different time periods. There is 1899, which is the main story, the 6 chapters of Red Dead Redemption 2, and then there's 2 epilogues, which take place in 1907. I believe that Red Dead Online should have taken place a year after the epilogue in 1908, because since it's an online game, you want to have options. You want to have viva variety to appeal to as many players as possible, especially if you're trying to keep this world as realistic, quote-unquote, as possible. For one thing, let's talk about the differences of technology from 1898 to 1908. Now, as I've cited in my vehicle ideas video that I did for Red Dead Online, there were vehicles that did exist in the 1890s, like bicycles, some very early cars, some steam-powered motorcycles, steam-powered boats, gliders, all of which could be repurposed for future content to Red Dead Online in the 1898 time period. But if we just take a decade jump from 1898 to 1908, there's even more technology that is at Rockstar's disposal to use for future content and to potentially appeal to more players. For example, by 1908, there were aeroplanes, biplanes flying around, and that's something that may appeal to some players that are currently not playing Red Dead Online. The ability to hop into an airplane or a biplane from that era, obviously, I would say World War I, back in time to the first decade of the 20th century, and have your own customizable biplane, aeroplane to fly around in the game. Obviously, you would have to have a balance to where those aeroplanes, biplanes are not OP, but obviously some players are going to want to have like a World War I era type biplane, even though that comes a few years later, past 1908. At the very least, it would be nice if people had like a regular aeroplane or biplane to fly around in. There's also some weapons, which unfortunately that could be pros and cons there, because there are weapons that exist in 1908 that might be a little too OP in Red Dead Online, but the reality is there's already OP weapons in the game. As we pointed out, the semi-auto pistol, the Mauser pistol, the semi-auto shotgun, along with the explosive incendiary rounds that I have mentioned already as mistakes. We've already kind of crossed the Rubicon on this one. That would also mean that the 1899 semi-auto pistol from Red Dead Redemption 2 story mode could be added to Red Dead Online as well. Even though rumor mill has it, according to data miners, we're going to be getting that pistol anyways, and I think that's a very bad idea, Rockstar, because it does kind of sort of break the timeline especially if your intent is to keep the game set in 1898. And adding a pistol allegedly from a year later doesn't make sense. So they're already, breaking the realism already with a lot of stuff that exists in Red Dead Online. So you might as well just jump the game forward 10 years into 1908. Unfortunately, that would also mean that there are certain characters that we encounter in Red Dead Online that would not exist in Red Dead Online in 1908. I'm not going to mention those characters for whatever rhyme or reason. But so there are, once again, pros and cons to the idea of improving the timeline to 1908 and the ability to have different clothing options added, aeroplanes, biplanes, cars from the first decade of the 20th century. Once again, balance would be important. Yes, if there were cars or steam-powered motorcycles, mopeds, and including bicycles, they would have limitations, which would still make riding around on a horse far more appealing, especially going off-road. But there are players in Red Dead Online that would like to have a car or a bicycle or a steam-powered moped for reasons, just like there are players that would like to have an aeroplane or a biplane for reasons, or at least a hot air balloon or a glider or a steam-powered boat. It's an online game, and as much variety as you can have when it comes to content for players to do, for the fun factor, for replayability, the better, in my opinion. But the balance is always a struggle, especially if you're trying to keep the game, time period appropriate, as well as focusing on realism, which at this point I kind of doubt. Next is going to tie into the time period, and it's also an issue I have with Red Dead Redemption 2 epilogues in 1907 and 1908, if there was a 1908 for Red Dead Online, is the fact that I feel like Thieves Landing and Armadillo should both be thriving at this point. And I've never liked the idea of like a Wild West town like Armadillo, which would be a perfect place for people to hang out and get into shootouts, and also various properties to purchase and whatnot, and a gun store, a doctor there. I feel like having it cholera-stricken was a bad decision, a mistake made by Rockstar, whether it's for the epilogue or for Red Dead Online. Plus, it doesn't really make sense that Armadillo is cholera-stricken in 1898, and it's still cholera-stricken and still abandoned in 1907 in Red Dead Redemption 2. The same thing for Thieves Landing. There hasn't been any additional buildings added to Thieves Landing from 1898 to 1907, even though by 1911, Thieves Landing is kind of sort of thriving with a brothel, a bar, a few other stores and buildings as well. It's awfully a short period for so much construction at Thieves Landing to occur. And if you go into Red Dead Redemption 1, you go into Thieves Landing, it feels like those brothels and bars and other buildings have been there for quite a few decades. So not having Thieves Landing built up and not having Armadillo thriving, two more mistakes that Rockstar has made in Red Dead Online, in my opinion. Yes, I realize tumbleweeds out there in the far west of New Austin, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having two quote-unquote thriving communities, towns in New Austin that are kind of competing against each other, where you see Tumbleweed is on its way out. You see Armadillo is kind of like up and coming and starting to become more popular because of the railroad and whatnot. I just think it was a mistake and a missed opportunity by Rockstar when it comes to Thieves Landing as well as Armadillo. You could also tack in Wapiti, but eventually Rockstar could end up adding the Wapiti tribe down the road to Red Dead Online, because technically, yeah, the Wapiti tribe should actually be at the Wapiti Reservation in 1898. They're there in 1899, so I just don't believe them not existing in 1898, and then just magically they just show up on the Wapiti Reservation a year later. So maybe down the road, Rockstar will rectify that by including the Wapiti tribe with some shops, with like a butcher, with a medicine man, medicine woman, maybe somebody that could give you war paint for your character, war paint for your horse, as well as characters from the Wapiti tribe for you to interact with, like Rainsfall, Eagle Flies, Peta, Captain Monroe, and maybe some others as well. I just thought that it made sense to tack that in there, because eventually Rockstar could include the Wapiti tribe in a future update to the game. Next is the Rockstar editor, or lack thereof, in Red Dead Online. I think that is a mistake. Might not be one that most people care for, But there's a lot of us that enjoy playing Red Dead Online, that like making content from Red Dead Online, whether it's awesome thumbnails, screenshots, images, or like fun videos that would be much more interesting and enjoyable, funny, epic, badass if we had the Rockstar editor system ported over from GTA Online to Red Dead Online. And I know that it was mentioned in an interview prior to the launch of Red Dead Online, I believe this is the case, where they were going to add a creator mode for Red Dead Online so that we could create our own PvP modes, variations of horse races, showdown, elimination, etc. But as of yet, Rockstar has not added a creator mode. And I guess you could go back and tack this on to my issues with the PvP menu and PvP mode itself. So yeah, I'm very disappointed that we don't have a creator for the various PvP modes in Red Dead Online. Maybe eventually Rockstar will add a PvP mode creator down the road. It's definitely a mistake I would like to see them fix. And since I'm posting this video on Halloween weekend, no Undead Overrun 2, Rockstar. No Undead to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Undead Nightmare, which I did do a video on, by the way. I did a lot of videos, as you may have noticed. Yeah, we get this mode, called The Dead or something, with these NPCs that have been reskinned to look like zombies, but they're basically just NPCs, enemy NPCs with guns and bows and arrows shooting at you. You don't even have to kill them with headshots in order to take them down. It's a terrible mode, and they've had nearly 2 years to come up with a good, awesome Halloween-themed homage to Undead Nightmare. And I even made a video a year prior, and I'm sure a lot of you sent them feedback regarding an Undead-themed update to Red Dead Online for Halloween season, which would involve survival modes to Red Dead Online in the towns, the cemeteries, graveyards scattered across the map, where the towns, the cities, graveyards, cemeteries overrun by the undead, and you and a posse of 4 have to go in and clean up these areas and take on the undead that were featured in Undead Nightmare, brought over to Red Dead Online for an Undead Overrun 2 mode. And the reason why I call it Undead Overrun 2 is because Undead Overrun was a popular mode in Red Dead Redemption multiplayer, and I think it would just make sense to call it Undead Overrun 2 because technically Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel to Red Dead Redemption. So Undead Overrun 2 would be a prequel to Undead Overrun, the original mode from Red Dead Redemption multiplayer. I realize I didn't go over every single mistake that Rockstar has made when it comes to Red Dead Online. I didn't tackle every single issue, every single problem, every single thing that might be on your list of grievances and things that you would like to see Rockstar go back and address and fix and improve upon, or just simply just take out of the game altogether. But that's where you come in. Your thoughts, your views, your opinions, whether you agree with me or disagree with me on some of my lists of mistakes that Rockstar has made when it comes to Red Dead Online, and what you think Rockstar could do to improve the game overall, the replayability, the fun factor, the goals, having things to aspire towards, purchasing. I mean, what's the point, like Riley was telling me the other night, and having all this money and having all this gold and doing these trader sales and doing the moonshiner sales and all the collecting that we do? What is the point if you have nothing to spend that money or gold on? Because a lot of us are sitting on tons of cash, tons of gold in the game, because we do the dailies every day, or we try to until we finally get tired of getting on every day, and we just say, you know what, screw it, I have enough gold, I'm just going to take a little break from the streaks right now. Eventually I'll try to get it back up eventually. So yeah, I mean, goals, replayability, fun factor, variety of content to appeal to as many players as possible. These are definitely things that Rockstar needs in order to ensure the survival of Red Dead Online, in order to bring players back to the game and hopefully bring new players to Red Dead Online down the road. So once again, my mistakes, probably left out a few as usual. What else is new? But now I want to see in the comment section, what are some mistakes that you think that Rockstar has made to Red Dead Online that could have made the game a lot more well received? Should they have waited a little bit longer to launch Red Dead Online? Was launching it as a beta a terrible mistake? your thoughts, your views, your opinions, whatever you have to say regarding the state of Red Dead Online and the mistakes and improvements that could be made to make the game far better than it currently is, in whatever capacity you think that would be the case. As always, welcome below in the comments section.